Okay, afternoon everyone, and we are now live. So today, guys, we have the awesome legend that is Matt Crane on the call on an interview. So Matt's kind of taken 20-30 minutes out of his day to talk through his experience of having worked with us. Matt joined the program, would have been knocking on 4.5 months ago now. So he's now left. It's actually going to be quite an interesting conversation as well, because it's not like Matt's literally just finished. It's probably been about a month or so of him living life on his own, so he can speak to that experience. But yeah, what we're going to do is dig into where he was when we started, the experience he's had, and hopefully you guys can get some key takeaways from what Matt's learned and then where he is today. So Matt, before we get into it, I'll just hand over to you, like who you are, what you do. There's a bit of an intro.
Yeah, so obviously, Matt, I don't think I'm an awesome legend, but I'll take it anyway.
I disagree.
So professionally, I'm an audit partner. So I work in professional services, so relatively kind of busy and high pressured job. And then outside of work, I've got 3 young children and 3 young sons, so they keep me pretty busy. And outside of that, I just try and keep sane by trying to play a bit of sport and do things like that. But yeah, just kind of normal life really.
Okay, so when like rewind, say 3-4 months ago, I think maybe you might have seen a post of one of your colleagues or like a friend of a friend on LinkedIn. You saw something that sort of like stood out, and you give me a nudge and got in touch to have a conversation. What was going on with you? What was your catalyst for talking to me and engaging with this process?
Yes, so there's a couple of things really. So I'd seen a couple of posts that had been posted through mutual colleagues basically, and a couple of people in my personal life, and then I've obviously seen some of your own social media posts. And at the time, there were a couple of things that sort of resonated with me why I wanted to get in touch. One was kind of coming out at the back end of lockdown, during that sort of 6 months of lockdown in 2021, January through to May. I'd got back into doing quite a bit of exercise, and I'd lost a bit of weight, and I was feeling quite good. And then through that summer, as we kind of progressed back into a normal work life, and I was back up in London, back traveling, back doing kind of all the things I was doing pre-COVID, I could feel some of those things in terms of my own health and what I'd dedicated to that slipping, and I'd gone back into habits that I'd had before. And I kind of recognised that and thought to myself, well, I need to do something about this. And previously, all my kind of exercise, probably since the time when I had kids in my my early 30s onwards, had been around. I'd either train to do something ridiculous like a marathon or like a long cycle or whatever it might be, and I'd do that for a period of time, then I wouldn't do anything for ages. And with a stressful, tiring life and all that kind of stuff, your diet goes out the window, so you're clearly not looking after yourself. So that was one thing. I'd seen a period of time where I could see I'd sort of got better in terms of looking after myself, and then that was going back again. And then I think the second point was also that having gone through kind of COVID, where I was working from home and I wasn't traveling with work as much as I was previously, my work-life balance had completely shifted. I could feel that shifting again, and I was getting kind of into that scenario where you feel relatively stressed about, not getting the balance right between work and home, and that was sort of playing on my mind. And so I wanted to find something that was going to deal with the kind of, you need to look after yourself a bit better, and get some advice around that. And the second thing was, well, it needs to be a bit more holistic. I need something that is going to, make a dramatic change to my lifestyle and my mindset, rather than just signing up for a gym program where I get a PT for 3 months and get blasted. That was kind of the rationale behind it.
Well, thanks. I think that gives a good summary. And I think there's probably a lot there that resonates with other guys potentially that are watching. And I think it's that what's worked historically for some of you guys, especially pretty driven, focused, maybe quite sporty in your youth or younger years, is that hardcore grinding. I'm going to smash it, and it's like all in on the exercise, all in on that. And that is one operating manual that can quote unquote work, but it's not really fit for purpose anymore, because you've got work, life, family, the whole piece. And so you might try that and apply it for a bit, and it will work for a bit, but then life, work, family, and everything get in the way, and it falls over. And so you end up being in this sort of stuck, quite negative cycle because you can't get where you want. And it's like, well, I did this before, so why isn't it working now? It's like, well, because it's not taking into account everything else. And that's what you talk about, the holistic piece. And I think it's not through a failing, but that's often where people fall over, I see, is that they acutely focus on one area, often be it exercise or diet or one of the two, or maybe a bit of both. But they're two small bits, important bits, but of a much bigger puzzle being you and your life and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely resonates.
Okay, so that's where we were when we started, and like, you know, I guess physically, body weight not as light as you wanted to be. Let's sort of fast forward the clock now to where we are sat today and talk about where we've at and what we've achieved. And then I think if we then can go back and sort of work through some of your key learnings and takeaways from the process, which I think will be helpful for anyone watching. So like headlines of where we're at, I guess physically, mentally. I think your take on the work-life balance actually is going to be really interesting, because your perspective now, just as an aside before giving it away, I find it incredibly refreshing, and I've actually shared that with quite a lot of people. So yeah, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, so like physically, obviously I've lost a chunk of weight, so I'm probably 15 kilos lighter than where I was when I started, and actually that's continued to come off since I came off the blueprint over a month ago. So
yeah, it was about 11 or 12ish, wasn't it, when you left? So that shows you just be able to continue.
It just keeps continuing. So like physically, I feel a lot better, a lot more energy, and in a much kind of better place from that perspective. I think from the mindset piece, when we're talking about work-life balance in particular, so my work-life balance hasn't changed. So I think we spoke about this, like I kind of went into this thinking that you might give me some kind of magic hack to get the work-life balance in order, and it would all kind of work like that. You know, I've never really engaged in a coaching kind of session, either sort of professionally or personally before, and maybe I was looking for that magic answer. But what's actually transpired is because of the nature of that course and the fact that it is holistic and a lot of it is looking at yourself and looking at ownership and mindset, that work-life balance piece, it's not fixed because it's never going to be fixed, but my take on it is much better than it was before. And I think I said to you at the end of when I got through the 12 weeks, that actually what I kind of realized quite early on in the piece was that when I was at work, I was beating myself up about not being at home. And when I was at home, I was beating up myself about not being at work. But actually, the one thing that I wasn't ever doing is taking any kind of responsibility for sorting myself out. And just by bringing some small changes, probably mainly around exercise, because that's what I'd always loved when I was kind of growing up, playing sport and having lots of exercise, bringing that back into my life, not in a mad way, in some really simple ways that we can talk about, actually helped sort out my own head, so that therefore I wasn't continually thinking about these two elements, and therefore when I was at work, I was present at work and I had energy at work, and when I was at home, I was present at home and had energy at home. And that's the difference.
Yeah, I think for me that's really important, and it's nuanced and it's hard to sort of explain, I think, until you get it or you grasp it. But it's you can't change the stress and demands of work, and you can't change the amazing but also stressful and demanding nature of home, right? That's always going to be there. What you can control is you and your perception and how you are approaching it. Like willpower, energy, focus, whatever you want to call it, like motivation is a finite resource, and it's going to get eaten away. And if you're not doing anything to help top that up, like we talked about the Coke bottle that gets shaken up, that sort of analogy, right? Like, or any mechanisms for letting that out. Well, you've got no bandwidth left to actually apply any thought to how you can start to approach situations. So it's like there's practical things to do to help you get some more of that, so you're able to do that. But then there's also things you can do to look a bit deeper to understand why you're doing that in the first place. It's like a sort of, becomes a virtuous circle versus a negative one. But when you're stuck in that sort of that loop, it's hard to see the wood for the trees, because there is lots going on. But I think the way that you've looked at it and framed it, I think it's really important, because it is that. Well, actually, what's the key area in here that I can look at, and it's like, it's me. That's the
and I think the blueprint itself gives you some of those tools. What it taught me was that how can I actually carve out some time for myself that helps me sort out some of those mindset pieces, and there's definitely loads in there that come to the fore, really.
Okay, well, that's a nice segue to sort of dig into maybe some of your, the process. So like today, chunk of weight down, feeling present at home, present at work, and I guess more invigorated at work as well. Because I think sometimes when you feel overwhelmed, it's almost like, oh, well, actually, do I care as much? And actually, you do really care. You're passionate. You've got an amazing career. Well, I think when you get overwhelmed by stuff, it's hard to see that. But then when you get a bit of breathing space, you realise, well, actually, I've got energy and focus for this and this. So it's unlocking that. So I think that's the great place we're in. What, I guess, so if we segue back to the start or like the key learnings, and I know you said this yourself as well, some of it you were a bit like, well, I'm not sure about this. So like, well, I guess the first question is any sort of key takeaways or your key learnings? I mean, we can say 3, but it doesn't have to be 3. But what would be your main sort of points that you've taken from the process?
So I think the main points and the things I'm still kind of doing now is building that structure into my life. So as I said previously, anything that I did to do with fitness had to be like out there, big bang, smashing it. Or you'd think about, I've got to go and do an hour and a half in the gym every day, otherwise it's just not working. Whereas now the structure is actually, if I do half an hour of stuff early in the morning, I get up and do it. If I just simply walk to work from the station rather than getting on the tube, and I carve out some time every day as a non-negotiable to go for a run, then actually I'm in a much better place mentally than I was previously. And that's got nothing to do with just enhancing my fitness. That's actually all about my head rather than my body. Because for me, that's made a massive difference. And I think that's the kind of piece I've learned from the program. The second point is around that sort of structure is that no one can say in their life, whilst we're all busy, that you don't have half an hour to go and do a 5K run at some point, or go for a 5K walk, or do something during the day. And it just has to be something. It doesn't have to be 2 hours in the gym with a PT. You just got to keep building that structure in, and that's made a difference. I think one of the other takeaways is that, like, every day, some days it's just not going to happen, and that you just have to accept that and then get back onto the things that work well. So have that structure in play, and then if it doesn't happen, just get back on the horse the next day and bring the structure back to the fore. Like, don't just walk away from it, because it's just one day that's gone, right?
No, you carry on, sorry.
Yeah, and the last one I was just going to say, there was a couple of other things that we did. So one of the things that I really like, and I still do now, we talked about gratitude, right? And like every day talking about gratitude and sort of the 3 things that you're grateful for. And I think that just continues to resonate in terms of positive mindset. So no matter what, you're kind of thinking about, right, end of the day, here's my 3 things. I'm happy with this. It could be really simple stuff, like you always said, like, I'm happy that I had a nice coffee in the morning. Yeah. Like, just take it for what it is. I think that it sounds a bit sort of silly. As you said, you asked me to do some things where I was just like, yeah, this just sounds a bit stupid, but actually it does resonate. And then when you talk to other people outside of the program, or you listen to people in professional world, sports world, high performers, they all talk about this stuff. There's a lot of people doing this stuff that you don't really realize.
Yeah, because it's like, how can that person do all this and all this other stuff? It's like they're not some superhuman, like, they've got systems and processes and ways to deal with life, like, and that's it. When you peel back the onion a little bit, you realize there's lots of this stuff going on. Yeah. I think one of the things that we spoke about, and I think you just went, well, balls to it, I'm going to go for it, was like some of the things you're a bit like, I'm not sure, especially some of the more, I guess you could call it esoteric mindset stuff. From my perspective, for me, that's what unlocks the ability for you to apply the more practical aspects of what you do. I haven't got time. Okay, well, what's the mindset of like, well, have you got time to do that? Yeah, of course I have. Well, can you do 5 minutes or something? Of course I can. That's ridiculous. Do that then. And then so it's like, if you build that sort of way of thinking, that can apply in all sorts of areas elsewhere in life. Because the contrary is true. Is like, well, I haven't got time to do 2 hours in the gym, so it's not doing anything. If you were talking to some of your teams and all the rest of it, and they said, oh, well, I'm struggling to do this, you're like, well, can you do that perfectly? Like, well, that's it, you're sacked. You'd be like, what the fuck? That's for nuts. But like, we often apply that sort of really, really like just black and white thinking to ourselves. And I think what you spoke about perfect's then made good, tomorrow's a new day. Well, the more you can breathe and live that, while still having the focus you want, the easier things become. You know, we can be our own worst enemy. I think is the
no, 100%. And I think some of those things where the coaching elements of the course itself, or the blueprint itself, just allows you that time to step back and think about you, not everything else around you, just about you. And that helps kind of frame some of these, where you're putting, some of it could be called habits, some of it can be called just process and tools in place that that work, and you can use that. It's not just a 12-week course, it's a bit of a life change, really.
Yeah. So another thing, whilst you enjoyed the process, Matt, like you went away, you had to travel, you ended up in Africa for a bit, like all that happened, and also that's because that's the sort of thing that maybe someone who's about to engage in a process like this, or think, oh, I want to make a change. Oh, but I've got this X, Y, and Z coming up. Something I say is that, well, that way of thinking is contrary to this process, because this process is built in such a way to help you to, I guess, manage that. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because, like, on paper, it's, oh my God, I've got to travel. Well, isn't that going to ruin everything we're doing? For me, that's the antithesis of everything we're talking about here. What would you say to that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So, well, I'm not going to spoil the blueprint surprise for everybody who's going to go on and do it. But for example, if you had a week where you knew you had to cut down on alcohol, I think it was quite early on in the piece, and I knew I was on a business trip out to Dubai, which was going to be fairly high on the alcohol content on a normal kind of occasion. And actually, I just said, this time around, I'm not going to do it like that. So I remember I got on the plane, I didn't drink, which is fairly unusual. I'm not an alcoholic, by the way. It's just like, normally you'd have a glass of wine. I didn't. And I had 2 nights where I didn't drink on that trip, but I knew the night that I was going to, and I just applied it. And I think if you go into it thinking, well, this is going to come in my way, or I can't do it because I had Christmas in the middle of it, and I want to relax over Christmas. If you go into it thinking, well, I can't do it because of that, then it's not going to be a life changer, because unfortunately, after the 12 weeks, everything else comes back again. So you have birthdays, social occasions, people are going to want to go for a drink with you. All this sort of stuff just happens. That's called life, right? You might have more stressful times at work, and I did it in a period where I knew I would be busy at work. But actually, if you're going to build something that's going to help you for a longer period of time, then you've got to do it during those occasions and just ride it. And it comes back to that point about some days, Christmas Day, you pile on loads, and then the next day you go back to being a bit more normal. And you learn some tools that just kind of help you deal with that in a better fashion. I was away on holiday last week, and I drank every night that I was away. Like, why wouldn't you? That's called
exactly. It's a holiday. I think that's what holiday is for.
Exactly. But that if you just applied the principle that I can't do it because I've got something in the way, it's just not going to work. Right? That's the mindset change.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing that I say to, like, as we said, it's you when we first spoke, Matt, and anyone that I would first speak to is like, if you think life's all unicorns and rainbows, it's nonsense. Like, life's great, and there's fun positives that come up that could derail progress. There's also lots of negative things that can happen. And like, if you think a 3-month period of time that we're going to work together, we did work together, it's all going to be perfect, and you're not going to get curveballs. And unfortunately, some bad things can happen. We don't know. That's the thing of life. I believe you're going to help someone make changes in a way that's good. Like, not that we never wish ill on someone, but it's good because we're stress testing everything we're learning. And if we're not stress testing it, you're just blindly following some crazy crap for 12 weeks, and then what do you do when you're finished? You're fucked.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, we want you to be in a place where you're empowered so you can continue, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there were people on the course when I was going through it that picked up COVID, and that's when we were in isolation. So you can't go out and do the things that you want to do, and all those different things. But actually, I think if you asked any of those people that was that more beneficial going through this at the same time and learning that process, then they'd all say yes. And the other thing that other people have asked me since is kind of like, must be a big commitment. It's not a time commitment. Like, there isn't, like, you're not kind of spending hours and hours on end sort of analysing yourself every day and committing huge amounts of time to it. It's just life. Like, you're just putting things in process for your life. So what you got to commit to is you committing to it, as in the commitment is is you, like your mindset and you taking responsibility. That's the commitment.
Yeah, I think you made that decision with yourself early on. I think that's why some of the bits where your inner critical voice, and maybe do some work on talking about what he looks like and talks like, like, so like some of that stuff you might have gone, whoa, that's a bit funny, but you were like, actually, no, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to commit to making some changes. And not that you have to agree with everything. And some things that you might try and adapt and work with don't always work and they don't fit. And again, that's part of the process. This whole way of working, it's about having principles that you can follow versus hard and fast rules. But I think the more invested you are in a process and the more willing you are to change, that's the key bit. It's not like you need to commit hours and hours and then, because I know that you said, Matt, I think other guys have finished now, I can't catch up with, they're like, people ask me, it's like, oh, surely you just spent hours in the gym. It's like, nope, it's not hard. And actually they go, well, has it been hard? No, the opposite. I feel better about myself. That's the point as well. Like, if you want these things to stick, they should give you more energy, more focus, feel better about yourself, more presence at home. If it's hard, that's it. Now, there's a distinction, I think, because there's nothing wrong with having some things that are challenging in your life and push your comfort zone a little bit. I don't think that's a bad thing, especially women, of course, but for men as well. Like, and that's something we talked about that sort of pushing your comfort zone a little bit. What would you say to that?
Yes, you definitely get pushed outside your comfort zone. So, but it's in small ways. So, for example, I just signed up for this. On the spot, I was like, "Yeah, I need to do something," and went with it. And then I think I probably hadn't really appreciated that. Like, you're in a group with a group of people doing this, so you're coming on to a live call with people and talking about yourself. And for me, that at first I was like, oh, this is pretty uncomfortable. I'm not really sure this is what I really wanted to do. But actually, it was one of the best things I got out of it. Like, doing it with some other people that you don't know helps provide some perspective, and you feel like you're back in kind of that team environment where you're sort of pushing each other on. So it was really, really good. But that definitely took me out of my comfort zone in terms of throwing myself into that and kind of being honest in that kind of situation. I can imagine for some people when they go into this, if they're like me, they feel that maybe that's quite intimidating. Other people love it. Like, there's people that love that kind of stuff. But for me, it wasn't quite like that. But I would just say, just embrace it. And I remember you said to me on my initial call, you said the people that get the most out of this are the people that do engage in it, do engage in the kind of that team environment, and add to it and encourage and bring your own views to it, and they're the people that get stuff out of it. And I would definitely say that is true. Like, if I look at the people that went through it, the people, the ones that engaged, the ones that have probably got the most out of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think that the comfort zone thing, like, people can think that means doing a 15K every day. It's like, no, that's not the point. It's the comfort zone is challenging yourself to be better, I think. And that can be in all areas. For you, that was in a group environment, like, and being open and honest about how yourself and you're feeling and some of your failings and successes in a group environment. That can be challenging. So you did that. Some of it might be doing some of the more mindset stuff, having a close look at yourself. That's challenging. It's not challenging I've got to run 15K and car crash my life. It's challenging in a different way. But when you hit those challenges and you achieve little things, that feels good. You build your self-efficacy and esteem. So rather than the constant, what was historically when you're doing it, failing and trying to, it's not working, you have these little wins all over the place. That feels really good in life, And even if the small things, no one else has fucking done that. It's you, right? And that's key.
But it also opens up things that just a completely new experience. To say meditation, for example, never meditated. I just assumed meditation was something that hippies do, and you have to dedicate like hours to it. But I still do it now, so I still take 10 minutes out of my day to do it, and I've learned a load of stuff around that, just about clearing your own head, right? And it's just an interesting kind of experience that I think if I hadn't been on this, there's no way I would have done that myself. But I can definitely see the benefits from doing it.
And I think that's another example of pushing your comfort zone as well. It's like that. It's something that you go, whoa, I don't know, but like, give it a go, and you reap the rewards. And for me, I think a lot of this, and it's about that focusing on yourself, but it's just that becoming a bit more self-aware in all areas, but then also the taking responsibility, because the whole taking ownership, like, some people can see that as, oh, it's tough love and it's being mean. It's not. Like, you are where you are because it's you. You are the sum product of your daily habits, choices, and actions. That's a fact. But like, sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, and you've created a monster that you can't even see. But the beauty of that situation, yeah, it's your fault and you're the problem, but you're the solution. Everything is here. You just need to look inside and work out what you need to do to get where you want. And that speaks, for me, back to that work-life balance. The only person who create work-life balance is you, you know. But in you taking control and ownership, which is exactly what you've done, that's how you created that, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No. 100%.
Okay. So, okay, one more question, Matt, before we wrap up. And we've probably covered this already, but and if it's a curveball, I can't answer, that's cool. But what, if anything, what was the most surprising aspect of the process, or something? I just, that's.
There's probably a few things surprising. I suppose the amount of weight I managed to lose in that space of time. So I think when we initially spoke, I said I wanted to get down. I think I was 103 kilos or something, and I said I wanted to get down to 95, and I got there pretty relatively quickly, and I just kept going, and I did it. And other people have asked me this question as well: as, "Oh, you must have just been starving yourself." I was like, "No, I didn't do any. I really didn't do that much. Just changed a few things in the way that I was thinking and what I was doing, and just understanding that and realizing that there's a sustainable way to do it was actually more surprising than I thought. I didn't think I would lose kind of that much weight, but also be able to just kind of control it and take it forward.
That's to me, that's especially around like diet, as in the way by which you eat, not being on a diet. It's really important because I think people approach that like without the exercise, like it's a zero-sum game, restriction and hard and grind. Well, actually, no. You want what you do to give you energy and feel more focused and all the good stuff. So it's like the changes that we want to make, you help you lose weight, great, but also feel good, have balance, be able to enjoy food, wine with friends and family and all the rest of it. Because in the end, if you know, that's it. And so I think when you can see that happen sustainably, you're like, what is this witchcraft? But it isn't witchcraft either, is it? That's the point. It's not crazy stuff.
And then I think the other thing, just on that, back to that work-life balance piece, is basically learning that it was about me and just carving some time out for me and how I kind of what processes that I have to put in place to kind of deal with those stresses in everyday life. I need to keep them in my life. They're tools that help manage it. They don't fix it; they help manage it. And learning that was quite an eye opener, I think.
No, yeah, nice. I think that's the bit, I think, for a lot of people, because it's hard to sort of see how that works. But that's the bit where it's like you can't control the stress, but you can control how you approach it, how you frame it, what you do within that. And that's the bit that unlocks it. Like, because then it's like, well, actually, I can now see the wood for the trees. I've got some breathing space, and that's.
Awesome. Don't get me wrong; it's never perfect, right? You still get stressed, and you still, still react badly to things that you kind of look back on and think, oh, I wish I'd done that a little bit better. But at least I think on the whole, you can revert back to something in terms of a foundation and say, well, okay, tomorrow, I need to go back to doing that again.
Well, now you're in a place where you can look back, review it, and go, hold up, next time I'll do that differently. I don't quite like how I showed up there, and that's how I do this. Versus just head in the sand, it's all bad, with no power or self-efficacy to make any change. Now you can be aware, we're still going to mess up, we all will, that's life. But the key is you can learn from that, right? And you can take that and then apply it and build, versus it just compounding in a negative sequence of like feeling rubbish.
Yeah. And I think the final bit I'd say is that there's so many people in the same position. Like, you join a group of people that actually, when you break it down, the kind of majority, they're all men, but they've all got families, partners, whatever it might be, stresses at home, stresses at work. They might own their own businesses, be doing whatever it might be in their terms of their careers, all sorts of different things, different people doing different things. It's quite interesting, but everyone's got the same issue. I think you've already said it, that we just don't have enough time. Like, we've got that time commodity, and that's creates issues in terms of looking after yourself. So that helps bring perspective, right?
Yeah, because you get to see others. It's like, well, it isn't just me with the weight of the world on my shoulders. Like there's other people there that are struggling, but then on the flip side, there's other people there in my exact situation who are thriving and getting the best out of life because they're taking control for themselves. And it's like,
exactly,
no one's got enough time. You have got time, you just can't see it, and that's it. It's helping you see that, and that's that, and that's that chink and unlocking that positive reframing situation. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know work-life balance. You're a busy man. Thank you again for your time. It's been really appreciated. Before we get off, if someone was watching this, like on the fence a bit, not sure, or thinking, you know, I've never had a coach a bit like yourself, but I'm not liking where I'm at, like, but they were kind of a bit dubious about the process. What would you say to them about getting involved?
Well, I'd wholeheartedly 100% recommend it. Like, I think a testament to where I am now as to what that blueprint is all about. And I would just say, throw yourself into it. Just, you know, don't overthink it. You know, bite the bullet, because tomorrow's going to be exactly the same. Get involved, and you know, you will definitely, the more you put into it, the more you will get out of it.
Thank you. Well, that's a ringing endorsement, so I appreciate that, Matt. Thank you very much. So on that note, thank you again, Matt, for your time. Really appreciate it. I hope anyone who's watching has got something from that. It's been really helpful for me, and also eye-opening, especially talking around the whole work-life balance piece, because ultimately it starts with us taking control and responsibility ourselves. If anyone watching is interested in having a chat about how I can help, what it all looks like, drop a note in the comments or ping me a DM and we can book in a quick call. On that note, have a fabulous Wednesday, guys, and we will see you soon. Cheers.